it was a gutsy performance by the Jays. And our next guest on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline joins us to talk about that. He's Shan Virjee from the Fan 960 in Calgary. He covers the Blue Jays for them. Shan, how are you? Thanks for taking time to be part of the show. You've got to feel good after the Jays avoiding the sweep yesterday and picking up a big win, don't you?
Oh, no kidding. It's been fun to watch this team so far. And look, this is a Dodgers team that we know exactly how good they are. We know exactly what they can be. They're the defending champions, and for the Jays to pick up that win, it was a gutsy win. It was not one that they cruised by. It was a couple home runs in the eighth, and then obviously Ernie Clement gets the winner. But it also took the entire bullpen, and a lot of these players are guys they acquired at the deadline. So yeah, it's been fun to watch this team, no doubt. And to get that one win against the Dodgers, I think going into the postseason, that can go really far.
If we go back to before the series started, a lot of people were talking, hey, this could be a potential World Series preview. And I think for a lot of Jays fans, and I know, Shan, I'm probably a little older than you, I remember 92 and 93 when they won those World Series. Now, it's been a long time. There's been a little bit of heartache and pain in the 3 decades since then. But in games 1 and 2, the Dodgers showed just how complete of a team they are. Forget the fact that they have the highest payroll in baseball, because they do. It's $322 million. Did you not feel that they played 2 very complete baseball games in games 1 and 2, regardless of who their competition when they're just good from top to bottom?
That's what the Dodgers have done for so long after acquiring Shohei Ohtani specifically, because that's pretty scary bat to face. But you look at shortstop and you see Mookie Betts. You look at first and you see Freddie Freeman. And you see all this talent. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez, somebody that Jays fans know very well. They just and on top of that, they have how many good starting pitchers and how many good bullpen arms. It's a team that they're intimidating to play against because you don't get much of a break. And that's I think what the Jays are trying to become. That's what every team is trying to become is a team that through and through the lineup they are that good and they can be a threat at all times. And it's the starting pitching that, and yeah, you talk about their payroll. They're able to bring in a lot of talented players. And it's not, I'm not sitting here saying it's not fair. It's what you want to do when you're a contending team. But yeah, this is a Dodgers team that won the World Series simply because they had a collection of the best players in the MLB. There wasn't a whole lot of luck involved. They were that good. And it's when you have guys that have been there, done that. You have guys that have been to multiple All-Stars. They've been major award winners. And on top of that, you have who I think is the best athlete on the planet, not just baseball. I think you have the best athlete on the planet, which is Shohei Ohtani. It's really hard to play against that team. And I think when you look at what the Toronto Blue Jays are doing this season, they're number one in batting average. They have people like Tyler Heineman batting over 300. They have other players down the lineup that are showing some flashes early on in their career, and that's contributed to what the Jays success has been so far. But yeah, when you play a team like the Dodgers that are so hard to play through and through, it makes it a tough out.
Watching the game yesterday at the in-laws, we got into the discussion. Shohei Ohtani, I don't disagree with you. Incredible athlete. Bad at gambling, good at baseball. But then we were talking about, I'm like, I knew the Dodgers had the highest payroll, but I was like, well, let's see where the Jays, I didn't realize the Jays are number 5 in payroll at $233 million. So it's not like the front office isn't spending. I know in that second game where it was 9-1, what was it? Blake Snell, 10 strikeout. I thought that was a game that really exposed the Jays in some areas. I know with was it in the first game there with Clayton Kershaw, and I forgot how I hadn't watched a Clayton Kershaw pitch game in a while. It's very frustrating. I'm glad there's a pitch clock now because it's very frustrating to watch him set up.
Yeah.
But you watch Snell just mow through the lineup and go up and down, and it didn't look like the Jays had any answers. And that's what I worry about, especially going into the wild card. 5 games, short series, hot pitching. If the bats aren't hot, but yesterday come back, it was a gutsy win. And like you had said, they used everybody in the bullpen. Yep. Would you have pulled Hoffman one batter before the whole, I know Ohtani was the guy that got it out. Would you have pulled Hoffman before or after he walked the second batter?
Well, it's an interesting question because Jeff Hoffman was brought in to be the closer, and in many games this season has been a really good closer. Now we've also seen in many games he's also struggled, and specifically on the first batter, he's walked the first batter 5 times, and that's not what you want from your closer. So it's an interesting question, but I think at this part of the season, you're playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and to give them that extra batter is basically saying, we want you to be our guy in the postseason. Can you be hit? Can you be that person? And it ended up being Mason Fluharty coming in to save that game. But you know, at this point of the season, I'm okay with keeping him in there because you need to have a number one closer when you head into the postseason. But if it was that postseason and he's walked a couple batters already, loaded the bases, I would have taken him up absolutely. And that is becoming an interesting discussion. You bring in all these relievers to help you in your playoff push, but can any of those guys be the number one closer? Because at the end of the day, none of those guys have been on a playoff team the number one closer when it all comes down to it. So I'm okay with keeping him in for that game. When it gets down to the nitty gritty and you need an out, I'm absolutely switching pitchers there.
All right, let's talk wild card. Jays,
Yeah.
Tigers, Astros, Red Sox, Mariners, Yankees. What's the one team that scares you the most that you don't want the Toronto Blue Jays to come up against?
Probably the team that's playing the worst right now, and that's New York Yankees. It doesn't matter if they
Really?
squeak in. Oh, it doesn't matter if they squeak in by one game. That is the team I'm most concerned about. It's Aaron Judge that can hit a home run. You've got a really good pitching staff. And going back to that earlier conversation, one thing the Jays have done well is attack starting pitchers and get them out of the game earlier than usual. I know sometimes you face an ace and so be it, but Max Fried's a guy the Jays have gotten to this year. Rodon's a guy the Jays have gotten to this year. But with that being said, when it comes down to it, this is a Yankees team that just made the World Series. It's a Yankees team that can hit a home run basically at any moment. And look, I know that the defensive woes are there, no doubt about it. They have a lot of errors. It's become a problem. Look at what's happening with Anthony Volpe, and this that fan base is certainly on edge. But at the end of the day, they have a collection of very talented players, and probably the best hitter we've seen in a long time in Aaron Judge. So, and look, there's no discredit to the Astros. I think the Mariners made some really good moves, and the Red Sox have been super hot. I don't really want to play any of those teams, but I understand that baseball is, in terms of the major four sports, it's the smallest postseason. So you will face a good team right away. I think that's why it's super important for the Jays to win their division and get into that spot, because then if it's the Red Sox and the Yankees playing each other, you hope that's a 3-game series and there's 3 starters, 1, 2, 3 gone, right? So that's what I really like about the Jays situation right now. But when it comes down to it, I don't want to see Aaron Judge in the postseason.
Shan Virjee from The Fan in Calgary is joining us. We're talking Major League Baseball. As far as the wild card goes, the one team that I kind of don't want to see, because I think they're very similar to the Jays, are the Seattle Mariners. Mm-hmm. Some nights they can play great defense. They can win a game 3-2, but they can also win a game 10-5. Pitching's there when they need it. The bats can come alive. They can get hot. They're kind of like the Jays at times. You don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes the fireworks just start going off, and you saw that this weekend. I mean, they're hitting clutch home runs, and that ballpark, it looks like a lot of fun. To me, they're too similar to the Jays, and that's what scares me, is because you don't know which fundamental baseball and bunting for singles probably really isn't in the Blue Jay or Mariner handbook.
Yeah, not exactly. And you look at a guy like Cal Raleigh, obviously he's lighting up the majors this year. By the way, best nickname in the world, I think, with Big Dumper. That's unbelievable. But you look at their big addition was Eugenio Suarez, and he is a big bat. I've watched a lot of Diamondbacks games. I've really enjoyed watching that team. But that was the big move, and I thought the Yankees would be the team to get him, and that scared me. And then Seattle picks him up, and you look, okay, that's a team that's got their catcher is dominating right now. They have a great pitching staff, a very scary pitching staff when it comes to the postseason. And I think it's the most important part, having that pitching staff that it doesn't really matter who goes out there. You have confidence in everybody, but you add a couple bats, you obviously add another reliever there. Seattle is a team that scares me. Absolutely. I think this is interesting this year in the American League because there's no team that's running away with it except for the Toronto Blue Jays. But even then, it's not that far of a gap. They've just been super hot since the All-Star break. But there's no team that you look at and say, I have them as the absolute favorite to win the AL, no doubt about it. So it could be a Seattle, it could be a Toronto, it could be a Boston who got hot at the right time. But Seattle is one of those teams that there's not many holes in that lineup, and you're right, they can win any way they need to.
As far as the National League goes, you got Milwaukee, LA, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, and San Diego. And the Jays start a series with the Cubs tomorrow night. I'll still call it the Sky Dome. You get 3 against the Cubs. And they're not the Dodgers, but they're having a good year. And I think sometimes it just gets overshadowed. Like when you have the Otanis and you get all of those other big names, Chicago is just quietly having a year. Now, if you're a Cubs fan, you'd be like, Maz, are you crazy or whatever? We've been good all year. And there's a lot of people talking about us. It seems they don't get the publicity that the Dodgers do, but the Cubs have put together a real nice season.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the top teams in the National League and the top teams in the American League, I'm probably looking at the National League and saying I think the favorite to win the World Series will come out of the NL. Chicago is one of those teams that they've been on the rise. And you look at a couple really good outfielders. Obviously PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, he's been dominating. He was an All-Star this year, and then Kyle Tucker. That's another really good bat out there. So it's a good team. It's a really good team. I think we've been so focused on the American League, obviously, this year, because it's just like for the Jays, just win one series. That's got all you're hoping, and then now you've created the expectation that you can be a World Series team. But when you look at the National League and how good they are, like the Cubs can beat the Dodgers in this series. The Dodgers haven't been perfect this year. They still are the most talented team, in my opinion. They haven't been perfect, and I think the Padres are another team that are pretty scary. There's a lot of talent out there in the National League. But Chicago, they're a team that, and you'll see, you're getting the Dodgers followed by Chicago. This is the last litmus test until the push for the postseason. I think most people, including the Jays themselves, know what that team is. They've had some good wins, they've had some bad losses, and they've also worked on a lot to get to the point that they're at right now. But the Chicago Cubs will be the last final litmus test to see where this Jays team really ranks up.
I think I like Bo Bichette with long hair. The home run jacket. Do they add stuff to the back of that? That's another thing. Shan, I would have to say, I'm trying to remember the last time it's been, what's the date today? August 11th. And as a Blue Jay fan, I'm still engaged. And I'm more engaged than I have been in a long time. And it's kind of good because there's nothing worse, right? Oh, it's the middle of July and the Jays are out of it. When do the Riders play next, and when does the NHL preseason start? Speaking of that, you work at the Fan 960 in Calgary, and you guys are the voice of the Calgary Flames, and it's always next year territory. We've had Ryan Pinder on the show before. We've had Pat Steinberg on the show before. Flames are always kind of middle of the pack, the draft or whatever. You know, the Oilers, McDavid and Draisaitl apparently are on a double honeymoon over in Paris right now. Maybe that'll be an advantage in a few weeks when everybody hits the ice. Let's shift there. Could this be the year for Craig Conroy and the gang where we could see the Flames actually do something and put it together and crawl and scratch their way into a playoff spot?
Real quick before I get to that, you're right. During the summer, if the Jays aren't playing well, I don't know what's going on. And last year we had the Olympics, which was an absolute treat, but obviously that doesn't go for 3 months. So the off season is always interesting. I'm getting excited for hockey again. It's August 11th. It's still a long ways away, but we've had some interesting conversations about the Calgary Flames because there's been so much movement over the last 2 seasons. And Craig Conroy is not a rookie GM anymore. He's been here for a few seasons and obviously has been a part of the Flames organization for a long time as a manager. But I don't see this as the year where they scratch and claw their way to what they did last season. I mean, they tied a record for most points without making the playoffs. It was unfortunate, no doubt about it. You wanted to see that team get rewarded for their hard work because at the end of the day, like they didn't have the McDavids to carry them that far. They didn't have that super talented player, but you saw Nazem Kadri step up, take a huge step. Jonathan Huberdeau took a big step, which as we know in Calgary, that is the big conversation. But the emergence of Dustin Wolf is something it's been spectacular. This is a young kid that's full of confidence. He's not cocky. He is confident, but he will tell you that he's confident. And it's such a cool thing to see. But with that being said, this is an NHL that a lot of the teams at the bottom are getting better. I think you can look at San Jose, you can look at Chicago, you can look at teams like that. I think Pittsburgh will fall to the bottom for a while, but it's a lot of the teams that have struggled, say the Anaheims, teams like that, they are taking big steps. And Calgary didn't make any moves to get better, which I'm okay with. It's look, a draft pick is important. To get that number one center, I think you need a draft pick. By the way, that kid Gavin McKenna, if you've heard about him, not bad. So I wouldn't mind getting that first overall for the Calgary Flames. But it's a team that, you know what, this is still a rebuilding process. They're waiting for the new arena, and that's the goal, is to be a good team in 27, 28 when that new arena is there. And I'm okay with going through the quote unquote growing pains. This is still a young team. Yeah, there's some veterans there, but still a young team. And Matt Coronado, Connor Zary, and obviously Dustin Wolf, and then Zane Parekh. You hope he makes the team. It's an exciting young core. I think Craig Conroy's done a really good job drafting recently. But yeah, this is a Flames team that if they don't make the playoffs and they get a good draft pick, you will not hear a complaint from me. But I'm also not sitting here saying, man, I really hope they lose every game. That's no one wants that, right?
Well, as far as rooting for people to lose, I bet you there's nobody happier than you guys, the biggest Florida Panther fans in Alberta, when they hoisted that cup again and again. I'm sure you guys would have paid for flights to the Elbow Room for fans to go down just to be part of that celebration. Shan, thanks for this. Let's do this again as the Jays get further into the season. Nothing can stop us now. 93 was a long ways. It was a long time ago, but there's nothing to say that the Jays can't. And listen, as a Rogers cell phone customer, if the Jays do win the World Series, you can raise my rates, just because that money I'm paying is going to a very good baseball team, and it brought home a championship we haven't seen in 3 decades.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, I was -8 when the Jays won the last World Series, so I would like to see it at the age of 24 now. I also wish I could have come on here and said something bad about the Rough Riders, but that record looks pretty good. So next time, let's hope they pick up a few losses and I can make fun of you guys.